Last time on the Pokémon Scarlet Teralocke.
Oh my god, Fairy Grimer! Through the mysterious cave of which we glitch through, and there he is. Woman! You managed to pin down the Titan. Ooh, giggity.
And now we begin a new episode.
There's mini Cloud Chicken, but he's not real Cloud Chicken. Cloud Chicken. That'd be a sick KFC. Imagine if KFC and Pokemon did a crossover and they had KFC-themed Pokemon chicken buckets. That'd be dope, right? Like, the kids' meal version would just be the Swablu meal. You look at these fantastic ideas I have. They're great. Why would you not want these wacky, crazy ideas? Probably because you're sane. I love how completely honest I am with that. No cap. It's like, why don't you like these random ideas? Is it because your brain's on, right? You're actually smart. I went to college, therefore I don't need your blasphemic things. Oh no. Is there a sandwich that will give me grass XP actually while I'm here? XP powered dragon? No, not really. Not really. Not a problem. Not that I'm too mad about using. It's kind of weird, right? It's kind of weird. The sandwich tech in Scarlet and Violet. I don't know about you guys. And by all means, let me know if you have been using it way more than I've ever used it. I've barely, and I mean barely, used the sandwich tech in Scarlet and Violet. If anything, I mostly used the Curry tech in Sword and Shield. The Curry stuff? Very good. Curries were great. But I don't know, there's something about the sandwich. Maybe they made the sandwiches a little bit too convoluted. Or maybe like, the sandwiches maybe would have been better if you could get really good sandwiches actually in the game. And like the really good, and not just have the really good sandwiches reserved for end game, right? Only really use it for egg power whilst breeding. Yeah, that's my point. Like, it doesn't seem as if it has as much functionality as you would want it to have. Like, curry just seemed like a very useful thing regardless of where you were at. And it was always good. Like, with sandwiches in Scarlet and Violet, it very much seems as if unless you're doing egg breeding, or unless you're doing shiny hunting in the end game with the Herba Mysticas, sandwiches just seemed a little bit pointless. Just a little bit, at least in my opinion. Because yeah, you can get EXP boosts out of them, but then you have to have a very specific sandwich to boost a very specific type of Pokemon XP for that amount of time. Like, I don't see why, when you were going around getting the Titans, if you were doing dens while still going through the game normally, I don't see why you couldn't have started getting the Herba Mystica from then. I genuinely don't see why not. If you were getting dens in the area or around the area where you fought a Titan, you should have had a chance, early on, whilst you're still going through the main game, to get Herba Mysticas. So you can get some added boosts. And you get the sandwich recipes directly from Arvin, because he's the one that's been playing about with them, putting the recipes together. There you go, done. I've just fixed the sandwich problem. And therefore you made the sandwiches way more interesting and way more viable early on. Not for shiny hunting or anything, but for actual, like, oh, I got a Herba Mystica. Maybe I'll use it whilst I'm going through the game to get added boosties. You know, it makes sense to me. I don't know about you guys. It makes sense to me. Right, this will judge whether we're ready to actually go through here or not. We should be okay. There's only 5 trainers around here, apparently, so... Oh no! It's the floating ball of doom! When the zoom in is so big... But we are... Your next battle, the Invisible Man. God's sake. I probably prefer the curries from Sword and Shield 2. Much easier with the ingredients and more fun to make too. Yeah, that's my point. It was just fun. The curries were fun. It had a fun mini game behind it. The mini game with the sandwiches is not even a mini game. It's just based. It's just basic. Get your ingredients, pop them in a sandwich, you're done. There's no like teamwork mini game thing going on in the background for multiplayer or anything like that to make your curries better or to make your sandwiches better. It's just, no, it's my sandwich. I eat it. I made it myself. I don't know, just obviously it has to be themed with the region, and I get it. But you can't tell me if this is based in Spain, right? If this region is based around Spain. Ooh, Pawnyard. I want sat for this one. Here's my point. If this region is based around Spain, right? Why is it that we have sandwiches when we should have paella? If you did paella instead, or paella, it depends on how you pronounce it. Paella, you know what I mean. Then one of the native Spanish dishes. If you made that instead, that's a multiplayer thing, kind of like curry. And you could have just copied and pasted the curry system over to this game, had paella, and it works just as well, if not better. Because it's immersive, it makes sense within the region, it's multiplayer, so that you can make yourself a pretty damn good paella, and if you're lucky, you may be able to make a like super fancy paella that does extra bonuses. But if you made a paella together with your friends, especially since this game has 4-player roaming co-op, you know, you can't tell me you can't have 4-player roaming co-op. One of you sets up a table and you all make paella together with your Pokemon hanging nearby. That would be cute AF and everyone would really love it. As soon as you show that mechanic off, every PokeTuber, every Pokestreamer, and every single person that does anything to do with Pokemon content will go, this is the single best thing you have done with the curry mechanic since the curry mechanic. Well done, A star. And again, we'll just make it good. Why ditch the whole thing just for sandwiches? I just don't get it. Anyway, those are my thoughts. Feel free to leave your thoughts, peeps. I'm just thinking of immersion, that's my thing. Because for one thing I did really enjoy about Sword and Shield was the idea that Sword and Shield was based on the UK, based on England, you know? Well, England's... yeah, well, the UK in general, because it has a little bit of all the regions of the UK. It's just one of those elements of the game where you want to be immersed into this open world, and you could have made that a little bit better, and you didn't. Whether it was by choice or by limitation or by design restriction, I don't know. Maybe the devs just didn't like paella. Yeah, maybe they went to Spain, had a bit of an excursion to get some research, and they thought, you know what? No one likes paella.
Coloshade says hot take.
There we go.
I actually think that Sword and Shield is better than Scarlet and Violet.
I agree.
Something about Scarvio just doesn't make me feel as satisfied with the game.
Yeah.
Yes, there's more emphasis on the story compared to SWORSH. The open world is better and the freedom of movement is liberating. I miss Dynamaxing, the Champion Dan, the gyms, the routes and so on. Well, except for Hop. I can do without Hop. Curry over sandwich any day of the week.
It's kind of strange, right? There are parts, like, don't get me wrong, Sword and Shield is not a perfect Pokemon game. It's serviceable. But it's just as serviceable as Scarlet and Violet. Because again, Scarlet and Violet doesn't change the system, it doesn't do anything really crazy. All it does is basically the same but different. That's exactly what Sword and Shield did as well, the same but different. When we were expecting, okay, new region, new ideas, new mon, new interests, new stories, etc. And there are some amazing things, like Kalo pointed out, about Scarlet and Violet. The story, like some of the best story, in comparison to Sword and Shield, the story writing is second to none. In comparison to some of the other games in the entire franchise, the stories are second to none. Because this is some of the best storytelling the Game Freak has ever done in a Pokemon game. Since probably the GameCube RPGs. I'm putting it out there. Since the GameCube RPGs and at a push Black and White and Black and White 2. There you go. I'm putting it out there. Hot take, if you will. Scarlet Violet obviously has an open world versus a, not linear world, but like segmented world, you know? Where you got bits. And then you got the open worlded area of Sword and Shield. But I look back at that and I enjoy that. Because you have structure. And because you have structure on individual zones, those individual zones look more fleshed out. They have more character behind them. They actually look more interesting. They feel more interesting. They feel like there's a lot more going on in such a small space in comparison to the space that you have in Sword and Shield, and sorry, in Scarlet and Violet. There's a lot of clashing comparisons there. Everyone knows about my thoughts on Scarlet and Violet, especially if you've seen my review of Scarlet and Violet. If you have, great. If you haven't, go to my YouTube channel, youtube.com/TheXploder. Check out the review of Pokemon Scarlet and Violet that I did for my full thoughts. Non-spoiler, but full thoughts. And you'll see that although the gameplay is solid, the new mon are great, the stories are some of the best, soundtrack's probably one of the best soundtracks as well, the game is just flawed. It has missing potential, left, right, and center. It's jarring at times. The fact that the performance is a factor. The performance is a factor. But the problem is, in the grand scheme of things, that the performance is actually hard-baked into the game itself. It's not the console. The game itself lags itself for the sake of the game running at, well, attempting to run a 30 FPS. The game itself does that. It's not even the console that's doing that. How do you even... I don't know how you even do that. How do you design a video game and create it in such a way so that you're actively going to throttle your game in its own programming to stop certain elements running smoothly, to help with performance issues, but by doing that, throttle your game so hard that you have literally made your game one of the most jarring visually games on the entire console. From a AAA company that should be doing things on the line at this point, should be doing things on the line of the graphical style of Let's Go Pikachu and Let's Go Eevee. Say what you want about the game, the art style was beautiful, or along the lines of what Bandai Namco did with Pokemon Snap. If they can pull that off, and that was outsourced, what is Game Freak truly capable of? You can say that, oh, it's a staffing issue, they don't have as much staff, and yes, that's true, they don't have as much staff. But still, they've been making Pokemon games for years. They should know what they need to do to take Pokemon up to the next level as the head of its own genre of video games. Creature capture video games are now in abundance because of the fact that Pokemon was a success. And that's the problem. Because Pokemon is at the head of a table, or is supposed to be at the head of a table, our expectations are 10 times higher than, let's say, something like Temtem, something like Nexomon, something like Cassette Beast that's coming out later this year, which I'm really hyped about. Because we look at them and we think, you're a AAA developer, we expect to see things along the lines or at the level of Breath of the Wild, at the level of Xenoblade Chronicles 3, at the level of God of War, at the level of Elden Ring. Not being one-to-one exacts, but doing the equivalent of what those games did. The equivalent. That's what I'm pissed off about. And you would think that means, oh, you must prefer Sword and Shield over it. I can't say that. Because both games have hard flaws that I can't look past. I can tolerate both of them, but that doesn't necessarily mean I like both of them. That's being very honest. Say what you want, that's what I think. Bit of a rant there, but that's how I truly feel. I genuinely say that from the heart. As a person that has been playing these games since Red, Blue, and Yellow. Hell, Red and Blue, Yellow came out a little bit later. I'm just left wanting more. Because it just feels as if the games are now constructed to be end game fodder. You get your legendaries within the first 3 minutes in comparison to being an end game goal. Like, you don't get a very satisfying fight most of the time against your rival or your big bads or your this, that, and the other, because they just feel, because the story didn't back them up. Until now, Nemona feels great because the story backs her up. The Elite Four, certain members of the Elite Four feel better than others because they actually have screen time while you're playing through the game. The others are just slapped in there and I have no care for them whatsoever. The head of the Elite Four? Kinda trash. I'm saying it. The only thing that's good about her is her character design. And even then, her team? Confusing at best. I'll probably keep this rant in for a YouTube video. Because by all means, I'll be very interested to see what the guys on YouTube think about it, or you guys think when you watch this when it comes on YouTube later. By all means, let me know any and all of your thoughts in the comments. I always love reading comments, be it here, YouTube, you name it. Always interacting with people, seeing what people think. But Scarlet and Violet has genuinely left me so jarred in general by the entire thing.